Democrats celebrated forcefully on Wednesday after securing sweeping victories in the first major round of elections since Donald Trump returned to the White House. For a party that had spent much of the past year bruised, divided, and scrambling to regain direction, the results felt like a long-awaited jolt of relief and momentum. Welcome viewers to my channel. Please subscribe, like my video, and turn on notifications so you don't miss our next update. Across several key states, a noticeably younger wave of Democrats surged to power. Among the most talked about winners was Zohran Mamdani, the 34-year-old New York City mayor-elect whose race was watched nationwide. Democrats also pulled off important wins in New Jersey and Virginia, and in California voters overwhelmingly supported a new congressional map designed to improve Democratic chances in the battle for control of the U.S. House next year. We won everywhere. Red counties, purple counties, blue counties, said Democratic National Committee Chair Ken Martin. He described the victories as a loud rejection of what he called Trump extremism, referring to the color-coded shorthand for Republican, mixed party, and Democratic regions. The party's success extended beyond marquee races. Lower-profile contests in politically mixed states like Pennsylvania and Georgia also went to Democrats, signaling a broader surge of support at various levels of local and state government. For a party that lost the presidency and both chambers of Congress a year ago, the win served as a much-needed morale boost. Still, Democratic leaders emphasized that the path ahead remains complicated. Many of the biggest races took place in states that already tend to lean Democratic, and with the 2026 midterm elections approaching, the party faces a range of challenges, including an ongoing struggle to improve its image among skeptical or undecided voters. Polls continue to show that the Democratic Party's overall brand remains unpopular with large segments of the public. Trump's approval rating has dipped, but surveys suggest that many voters are still deeply split between the two major parties. A Reuters/Ipsos poll conducted in late October showed respondents evenly divided on whether they would support a Democrat or a Republican for the House of Representatives if the election were held immediately. Tensions within the Democratic Party also remain. Mamdani, a self-described Democratic socialist, energized young voters by running as an unapologetic outsider. Meanwhile, Abigail Spanberger in Virginia and Mikie Sherrill in New Jersey, both former national security professionals and considered more moderate, won their governor's races with messages tailored to centrist and independent voters. Despite their ideological differences, all three candidates hammered one theme repeatedly: the economy. They focused heavily on the rising cost of living, an issue that helped fuel Trump's return to power last year and continues to weigh heavily on voters across the country. At some point, it's not enough to diagnose the hardship facing working-class Americans, Mamdani said in his first press conference as mayor-elect. You have to show that you can actually deliver. For now, Democratic leaders are energized not only by the headline-grabbing gubernatorial and mayoral victories, but also by a wide array of wins in school board races, judicial elections, and legislative contests. In heavily Republican Mississippi, Democrats made gains in the state legislature, surprising many political observers. Megan Meehan Draper, executive director of the Democratic Governors Association, highlighted what she said were crucial demographic shifts. We gained significantly with young men, with voters who don't have college degrees, and Latino voters swung strongly toward us in both Virginia and New Jersey. Long known for his combative style, largely brushed past his party's setbacks during a nearly hour-long speech in Miami on Wednesday. Instead, he focused on commemorating the one-year anniversary of his own election, calling it the single most consequential election victory in American history. Reflecting on what he described as America's renewed sovereignty, Trump made a pointed remark about Mamdani's win in New York. He later softened his tone, saying he wanted New York City to thrive and even suggested, perhaps jokingly, that he might help the incoming mayor a little bit, maybe. Notably, he avoided repeating an earlier threat to withhold federal funding from the city. Mamdani made history as the first Muslim-elected mayor of the nation's largest city. He defeated Andrew Cuomo, the former Democratic governor who ran as an independent after losing his party's nomination. Cuomo, who stepped down as governor 4 years ago after facing sexual harassment allegations he denies, attempted to portray Mamdani as dangerously radical, arguing that his ideas were unrealistic. In contrast, Mamdani campaigned on ambitious proposals, including raising taxes on wealthy individuals and corporations to fund free childcare, free city bus service, and rent freezes. His win underscored the broader ideological diversity within the Democratic Party and revealed an appetite among many voters for bold economic reforms. Sherrill and Spanberger's victories, while expected in their Democratic-leaning states, shocked analysts with their overwhelming margins, far surpassing Vice President Kamala Harris's performance in the same states last year. Both candidates made a strategic effort to tie their opponents closely to Trump, leveraging widespread exhaustion and frustration with his turbulent return to power. Exit polls conducted for major news networks and the Associated Press showed that more than one-third of voters in those states said opposition to Trump influenced their vote, and those voters overwhelmingly backed Democrats. For Republicans, Tuesday's elections served as an early warning. Trump's political coalition appears harder to mobilize when he isn't personally at the top of the ticket. Vice President J.D. Vance acknowledged this openly, posting on social media that Republicans must improve turnout among the inconsistent voters who supported Trump in 2024. In the uneasy calm of a nation still reeling from the shockwaves of Donald Trump's sudden return to the White House, few expected the political winds to shift so dramatically, so quickly, or so loudly. For months, Democrats wandered through a fog of uncertainty, fractured internally, bruised by their losses, and struggling to speak with one voice in a world that felt increasingly dominated by Trump's relentless messaging machine. The party seemed to exist in a constant state of defense, reacting to crises instead of shaping the narrative. But on a brisk Wednesday morning, as the dust settled from the first major elections of the new political era, a different energy pulsed through Democratic headquarters across the country. It was not hesitation. It was not fear. It was something far rarer in politics: unrestrained triumph. The headlines came in one by one, like a series of shocks electrifying the party's bloodstream. New Jersey blew again, and by margins beyond even optimistic predictions. Virginia, a decisive win, shaking off fears that Trump's influence had permanently altered the state's political map. And perhaps most stunning of all, New York City, where a 34-year-old Democratic socialist named Zohran Mamdani shattered expectations and climbed to the city's highest office, sweeping aside both establishment Democrats and their rivals with a message that had taken root in the hearts of young voters hungry for change. The victory was not just political, it was symbolic, the kind of seismic shift that signals something deeper taking place beneath the surface. But the map did not end there. In California, voters overwhelmingly approved a new congressional district map, carefully designed to boost Democratic chances in next year's battle for the House. In swing states like Pennsylvania and Georgia, local candidates quietly secured wins that suggested something powerful and surprising. Even in places where Trump's shadow loomed large, voters were willing to break from the expected script. It felt, for many inside the party, like a lifeline suddenly thrown into the storm. Ken Martin, chair of the Democratic National Committee, stepped before reporters with the confident grin of a man who knew what the night's victories meant, not just the numbers, but the message. We won all red over counties, purple counties, blue counties. This was a massive rejection of Trump extremism. His words echoed through newsrooms and social media feeds, reverberating with the unmistakable force of a party rediscovering its voice. Yet even in the glow of celebration, the deeper truth was impossible to ignore. For the past year, Democrats had been fighting not only Trump's political machine, but also their own identity crisis. The party was split between rising progressives whose bold visions promised sweeping change and centrists who preached caution, warning that moving too far too fast would alienate the very voters they desperately needed. It was a tension that simmered beneath the surface, sometimes exploding into very public conflict. But on this night, the victories seemed to stitch together what had been frayed. Zohran Mamdani embodied the insurgent energy of the party's younger wing. His campaign had been powered by students, first-time voters, and working-class New Yorkers who felt ignored by the political establishment. His speeches were fiery, emotional, unapologetically bold, calling for rent freezes, free childcare, and publicly funded bus service. His message made traditional Democrats uneasy, but it made newly awakened voters feel seen. And in this election, those voters showed up.